when you look at people that have created enormous wealth in their life, they take giant asymmetrical bets where the risk is actually just like minuscule, but the reward is massive. And you might have 3 of them in a lifetime, right? And so like that's the lens that I'm looking at Bitcoin through. It's not that I'm a hater on these other things. I think, especially as an engineer, I'm telling you, I'm looking at it, I'm just like, holy hell, that's ambitious, right? And I hope they're successful. I hope they can do whatever. But for me, it's just real easy to like Bitcoin is just.
What do you think happens to Bitcoin over the next 5 years?
I mean, I think the run we're in right now is about to get
crazy,
pretty interesting. Yeah.
Are you a subscriber to like the super cycle theory?
I am. But I don't know if it's going to be this cycle or maybe the next cycle. I would be really shocked if it could go longer. Like the central banks could keep the lid on this insanity for more than 5 years. Mm-hmm. I'd be really surprised.
I agree with you. How do you look at the institutions coming into the market? I think there's some people who would argue, institutions are here. They have strong hands. There won't be a big, 80, 85% drawdown after a blow off top in the current cycle that we're in. Mm-hmm. Other people argue, no, they're the weakest hands around and they're going to dump this stuff and they're actually going to accelerate a drawdown once they get any sort of 20, 30%, deleveraging, and they're actually going to make it go faster. And
I think so much of it comes down to what we were talking about earlier, which is the voting rights and the boards. Like, to convince the board that they need to do this is challenging. I mean, I look at Square as a perfect example. Jack Dorsey's like running that company, but he doesn't have the majority of the voting rights or a substantial portion of it. And so I think he's struggling to, because I suspect, I might be wrong, but I would suspect that he would want to put more of that on their balance sheet than what he's done. But I don't think he can do it just because of the composition of the board and what he's up against. So I think that's probably the bigger picture. And I think as the price, I think once the price goes through about 100,000, I think it's just going to get such a wire brush scrub of scrutiny as to what the hell is this thing, and why are there people trading $100,000 for an imaginary token? Why? There's something I'm missing, I think, is what happens once you kind of get through that price level. And
it hasn't died. I thought it was died 20 times before.
That too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically, not only does it not die, but it keeps going up higher and higher in price over time. What the hell's going on?
What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're starting to get there. So for me, if I was going to say, I think 5 years is, I don't know how they can keep the lid on this for another 5 years. You might see it even sooner. And so for me, like trying to time whether, like, how do I position myself through all this? The thing that I'm really paying much more attention to than Bitcoin is just like the macro backdrop of what's happening in the fixed income market, what's happening in the commodities market. Yep. Oil's at $70 a barrel right now. If it's anything like 2008, by the end of the summer, you're at $150 a barrel. And people hearing that now would be like, that's totally nuts.
It's possible.
And it's possible. It's way more possible than I think people realize.
In March of last year, I wrote a piece and I picked 4 assets and I said, here's how I think they're going to perform. I said equities, I think it was over a 2-year period, if I remember correctly. Equities, 8 out of 10. Oil, 5 out of 10. Gold, 2 out of 10. Bitcoin, 11 out of 10.
Yeah.
Those were the rankings.
Yeah.
Directionally correct on almost all of them. Oil and equities, should have swapped them, right? In terms of oil outperformed the equities just because it was so depressed. But I actually look at it as that's probably the right way to keep looking at it. Like, we're a year after, right? But like, I don't think anything's changed.
Nothing's changed. If anything, it's only intensified.
It's and Bitcoin, oil / equities are kind of be, similar, but oil probably outperforms equities. And then you have gold.
Yeah.